small. Is it the weather, you think? Something going on with the weather?
It's windy and lines are like.
Yeah, that's the one I have.
Yep, that's, okay. I think you should be good now. Cool, we're live.
Zoom?
Yep, nope, sorry.
That's usually what Rob looks at.
Yeah, that's my screen that I'm used to looking at.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob.
Yep.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear us in Zoom land?
Yes, I got
Can
you.
you see us? Very good. Thank you. Again, sorry for all these.
Nope, we're muted down here.
Come on, Windows 11, you can do it. Tracy, can you speak again for us?
I'm here. Are you here? I'm
Yes,
here.
we got you. Okay. Here we are one more time. We are, what's that? Yeah, fingers crossed. Okay, so we were discussing what to do with leftover money, roughly $26,000 at the moment. So we're not talking about the big projects. We've kind of decided on that already, giving them a little more time, but there's going to be some other money left over. What do we do with it? And we were just discussing what it might be like. We started to discuss what it might be like to allocate it to some of the other applicants. I think Tracy had told us some of the things down the list, and the very first one down the list asked for much more than $26,000.
Yes, so the first one down the list was the Enfield Volunteer Fire Company for capital improvements. Their minimum request was 50,000. The one under them is Unity House, which is for improvements to properties that they used to, as I recall, used to house some of their clients. They would take any amount they can utilize to do those things. So they, as I recall, were very flexible about the amount of funding.
I know the Enfield Fire Department also said they could work with less. I don't know what that number is, but.
So they had, their original request was 178,000 and their minimum request was 50,000. But we could certainly talk to them about if they could do something with the 25, 26.
Okay, committee members, what do we think? Do we want to reopen some type of process and we can discuss what that is? Or do we want to just have the county take it and make it quick and easy?
So this makes sense that we would take that little amount and don't give it to some of the community organizations. But if we have the huge amount, then we take that back and just.
So if we're giving the littler amount back to community organizations, we do have to talk about a process. We have to make sure we know who's doing that work, you know, so we just, like I said before, you need to be we can do this. We just don't want to get, in my opinion, too big. We can't, it's 26,000 anyway. So talk to me about how we would do it.
Maybe the way is to look at the next 5 or something and say, hey, there's some money come available. If you're still interested, get back to us by the deadline date and then we could evaluate.
That sounds good.
Some amount up to how much is available so they can adjust the numbers accordingly.
Yep.
Right, yes,
Yeah.
This is all we got. But
Yeah,
So kind of a quick mini grant.
Yep.
From the top, what's being discussed right now is the next 5 on the list.
yep, yeah.
I will also just mention that one of the current applicants did ask for more money. It's Meals on Wheels, whatever they're called.
Oh, right.
we could add them to the list.
We could consider,
Add them on there.
that could be one of the considerations.
Yeah, there actually are a few programs that have requested additional funds. The Food Net Meals on Wheels was one of them. But then also Catholic Charities, GAAC, Robin Fund, NAMI Finger Lakes. So there's Brookton Dale Market. There's a few, there have been a few that have said that they were interested in additional funds if they were available.
Nice to see those organizations that did.
Yes,
That's for additional.
So that is another option we have too, I guess.
to look at that as a separate list, the ones who asked.
It is possible, yeah.
You could look at the next 5 and the ones who asked, just as one list.
Right.
So we don't have to go back and forth.
Just add them all
Right,
into one,
yes,
list. That makes sense, that's practical.
seeing a lot of nods, so
Yeah.
that, so just
Yeah.
want to state it out loud again. We would take the next 5 on the list, plus the approximately 5 that have requested additional money, and let them know there's an opportunity, one-time opportunity for a little more money. They would need to do a quick, like, summary of what they want to do with it.
Yeah.
Probably not a full application.
Yeah.
Talk about the details. And at a future meeting, we would vote on that. We need to be fairly soon, because that money also has to get contracted and all that.
And we should give them a deadline to respond.
Yeah.
Within 2 weeks
Yeah.
or something.
Deadline to respond with. Okay, I want to check with, I just said something that I'm not sure it's true. These would be just amended, no, these would be new contracts if they're new. So we need, how much time do we need?
They tell us a month for contracts, but generally they can get in 2 weeks.
So 2 to 4 weeks for contracts. Okay. So I'm seeing a lot of nods. So we have some general agreement. Let's just get a few more details on the table. So we know who we're letting apply, the next 5 on the list, and anyone who's requested money. Can they request up to the full amount, up to 26,700?
Yes.
Okay. We give them a deadline, a relatively short deadline. We ask them for a written description of the project. Do we need anything else from them, do we think?
I would say a written description of the project and a new budget table for that 26.7, as well as an indication of how they intend to, if they intend to request a waiver or if they will upfront the funding.
Okay. Tracy, how about the money that's been allocated to you to do this work? Is there enough room in what we've allocated to do this, that amount of extra?
Yeah, if we're talking about 1 or 2 additional contracts, we'll be fine with the budget we have.
Okay, excellent to know. Do you want to check with Norman, Samantha again to make sure you're comfortable-ish with this? I don't want to read body language. I want, like you said, yeah.
As we start this process now, we should be able to have enough time to get their responses back, get all their documentation so we can get into a contract. Because I know the first round, some of the recipients took up to 6 months getting up the documentation for insurance and this and that back to us. 6 months, we don't have enough time to get into a contract with them, but hopefully, halfway through the year, they should have as much as we need to get into a contract, fingers crossed. So yeah, as long as we get started now and give them tight deadlines, we should be good.
Can we, when we get to the process where we contact those folks, can we give them that information? So this is what's left, this is the turnaround time. If chosen, you'll have to have A, B, and C done by September 30th or whatever, so that they are aware that the window is really small. If they're going to apply, they gotta cross these T's and dot these I's by a certain time.
That's a good idea.
Absolutely. We have all that information now.
We did that last too. That everything.
Then they don't get it if they don't.
Great. I see a lot of nodding. It seems like people are, I do want to check back one more time with our consultant and our staff, just to make sure, we're not like, I don't know.
Going rogue.
Yeah, or putting too much on. It doesn't feel like we're putting too much on them. I just want to ask one more time. Because it's easy for us to just say this, right?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yeah. Yeah, I think as long as we're setting forth those deadlines to make sure that we get everything we need back relatively quickly, I think we're fine. It would be great to have this committee meet again, like in July, to start making those decisions, because I think it's going to have to go through the full legislature as well.
So, okay, so that's another part. We'll have to schedule a meeting, probably the second half of July.
So give them until like the 15th or 17th or something like that, have this committee meet in the second half of July, and then have at the first August county meeting. So I don't know how those meetings line up, but that first August county legislature meeting, have that be, or those recommendations go to the legislature for approval.
I will mention too, I'll remind everyone that we we did 2 rounds of this allocations. In the first round, there were some not so great feelings from some of the legislators who were not involved. The second round, we had that spreadsheet where everybody got a vote and everyone seemed to really like that. Tracy, from your point of view, is that doable again? It seemed like you had already done the work to set that system up.
Yeah, we could do that again, especially since it's only going to be 10 or 11, max 10 or 11 applications.
So is the committee comfortable with that idea that all legislators would be voting on all 10?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
It worked really well last time.
So that's part of this too.
Yeah.
All right,
And
yes, please.
so, and this is, we're talking $24,000, right? $26,000.
26.
So $26,000, we're looking at September, October, the expanded budget committee meetings are starting as well, so you're talking about a lot of meetings. I just want to make sure, because we're talking, if we go through July, August, and then we're into September, probably won't be until October before. So the full legislature probably won't be going down until the end of August or early September.
That sounds right.
I just want, I'm reminding everyone that we are coming into the budgets.
Yeah.
Okay. So-
You probably forgot.
So we're all.
Is it possible at the July meetings, we're gonna have to do one in July, to look at that 6, look at that 5, and narrow that down a little bit before it goes out to the full legislature? Because some of them might be $450,000, $200,000, whatever. $26,000 is probably not gonna help you do what you wanted to do 3 years ago. So looking at the smaller amount, so when it goes to the full body, maybe there's 6 or 7, maybe there's 4 or 5.
It's a good idea.
And then people can get more money. And then I think it'll make the process a little easier, because it's condensed.
I'm not sure I understood.
So there's 6 that have, 5 or 6 that have asked for additional funds. And then we have the next 5 on the list. It's only 26,000. So if you ask for 100,000 in additional funds, or your original request was for 150, 250,000, that 26,000 may not be, you may be sending it to people who don't have a need for it. In the meantime, so maybe that's not necessary. Let me understand the process. So we'll send out a letter before legislators vote that says, if you're interested, send this in, right? So that 11 may whittle itself down to 3
Right.
on its own.
Hmm.
Okay, never mind.
Okay.
Because that could be done in that
And
process.
this committee can also say, we've narrowed it down to 5 or,
Right.
I just had a question, if
Yeah.
in like whatever communication goes out to the people who requested additional money or the next 5 on the list. I think it should kind of be spelled out in there that this is not a new application. It's just hey, if we know that you had an application there, would any of this money be applicable to what we had?
Yeah,
or
that's
what we
right.
want to do?
Yeah.
This
Thank
is
you,
not,
absolutely.
yeah, this is not
Yeah.
new. This is for existing customers, for their existing projects.
I also know, you guys are talking about opening it up to new recipients. Currently, not all of our recipients that are contracted have spent all the funding, so we still have some funding coming back through, to be reallocated. This could also happen with anybody else we open it up to. The current recipients who have asked for additional funding, they've already used their funding in full. We know that, all of their documentation that they're providing is ARPA eligible. It's, they're already proven. So those, recipients, we are not worried about, not using all the funding and losing it. Anybody we do open it up to and doesn't use the funding, we'll probably lose some. Just so keep that in mind when you're deciding on who to give the funds to. There's something to keep in mind.
Randy?
Tracy, is there a list or what you mentioned of other people who are not going to spend other funds? Should we be asking them, you need to, what if these other monies come through and they're not spent on these contracts. So are any other contracts at risk, I guess, of not spending other funds?
We'll have that here in the next month or two. Most of these community recovery fund contracts are coming to an end, end of June, July, and August. Anything going into 2025 and 2026, we have, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Tracy, but I think we only have 6 of them going 25 to 26, and most of them have been either vouchering right along, or they're the big projects that we know should be completed by the dates. Everything else we will know here in the next month or two if they're gonna be small.
Oh, okay. So it might be $30,000 or something, who knows? Right?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, yes, there might be some more money trickling in and, as long as we know by the time we vote on the projects, that we'll know at that moment what the actual dollar figure we have in hand is, we can get all that money out.
So
There may, at the very end, there may be a little bit we just can't, but that's all right. We're getting, squeezing as much as we can out of it. All right, I feel like we have enough to vote on, and there may be a few little details that have to get added later on. Does everyone feel like we have enough information right now to know what we're voting on? Okay, so we are gonna vote on a proposal to take the remaining money, which is currently,
$26,514.
thank you. And open it up to the next 5 on the original list, plus anyone who has requested additional funds to be reallocated to them with tight deadlines to be determined and to be voted on by the full legislature in a spreadsheet format. How's that enough for enough? Brittany, you got enough info there?
Yep.
Okay. Any last discussion before we vote? All in favor? That is unanimous. All right. Very nice. Nice little Christmas in July for the community. All right, the last item I had is smallest one. It relates to something you just said, that there are 6 projects that are contracted to go into 2025 and 2026. The ARPA, another ARPA deadline is that all projects must be completed by the end of 2026. But because of that reasons you heard earlier, that we can't just turn around on a dime, well, it just takes time to process stuff. You know what? I want you guys to explain why we have to have a final deadline for all the projects, and you were recommending April 31st, 2026. Can you talk about that a little more?
So, if they expend all of their funds, by let's say, contracts end April 31st, as long as they expend all of their funds by April 31st, they can send in payment vouchers to request the funding by, I believe we said, June.
August 1st.
Yeah, August 31st. That will give us time to go back and forth with recipients if they didn't give us enough backup documentation. And currently, most of the recipients, we go back and forth probably 5 or 6 times trying to get the correct backup documentation. So it takes time. They're not always, they don't exactly expedite that documentation back to us, or they have to reach out to somebody for it. So if we stop all spending as of April 31st, everything's spent by then, and we'll give them time to get any canceled checks or any documentation from their banks or contractors back to provide us with the documentation, and it'll give us time to go back and forth with recipients so that we have all the documentation by the end of 2026, so that we don't have to send it. Or we don't have to clonate the money back, which we don't want to. We want them to spend it and. That's true. That's true.
So that's fine. Like, I understand that this is back office stuff that we don't know about. My only concerns are some of these very big projects, like the crisis intervention, crisis stabilization center, and Caroline broadband. I know that's another one that goes into, you know, these are multi-year projects, are we endangering them by having that deadline early, endangering those projects?
It seems that if we have the deadline, it does provide us a little flexibility as well. But if we at least have a deadline to shoot for that gives some time, and we have a few that have to lag because of whatever reason, we can work with them. But at least that's kind of what we talked about. It gives us a little bit, it buys us a little time. We have a deadline, but we have a little gap that we can work with if we have to.
Okay, that's
What we're gonna shoot for.
good enough for me. Any other discussion? Committee members? So we're ready to have a vote then? So the vote is going to be April 30th because it's only 30 days in April. I was just doing that little rhyme in my head. So that we're saying all projects must be completed by August 30th, 2026. Is that the simple statement we're making? Okay, good?
And invoiced, right?
No.
What was that?
And invoiced? Or you're saying they've got all their invoices in?
Yeah.
They have to have all their invoices done.
Documentation to be reimbursed, yeah.
So that's what the resolution is. Their documentation must be submitted by April 30th, 2026.
The funds must be expended and all the documentation by August.
And spending comes first, documentation comes later.
I'm just trying to say for our little resolution here, what are we saying?
So they're expending the funds by April 30th.
Mhm.
And then they have to have all of their documentation into the county no later than August 1, but I think sorry.
Oh, right. All projects must expend funds by April 30th. All final disbursement requests must be submitted, okay. By no later than August 1st, got it.
The reality is it buys them. But
Yes. Okay, good. Any further discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you. Any other business today? That was really good. We had a lot of stuff that was just building up and we got it done. Made some interesting decisions and we will next be arranging the meeting for the end of July to discuss on the next phase. I'll write up what we did here and share with all the legislators to let them know what's coming. I'm thinking Tracy and I, we have some conversation, thinking about some conversations. We have to get all the wording together that we tell the organizations and that kind of stuff. Anything else? All right. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Good meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. A lot of little business that we don't have precedent for, you know what I mean? Just make it up on the